The hall rotated with ceremonial dignity, which was a polite way of saying it made everyone mildly seasick while pretending it was culture. Lines of delegates shimmered in their assigned gravities, whispering into translators, checking blood chemistry, adjusting ceremonial cloaks, adjusting expectations, adjusting excuses. At the center platform she waited. Candidate 47 Blue, announced the overhead intelligence, a voice designed by committee and therefore trusted by no one. Status, present. Emotional metrics, admirable. Probability curve. Please remain seated. A ripple of diplomatic laughter passed through the tiers. It was the kind of laugh that had paperwork attached to it. She inclined her head. Her ears followed a heartbeat later, long, elegant, alive with small currents of light that betrayed what her posture did not. Anyone who had studied her species would have recognized the pattern. Hope, folded carefully so it could be denied without breaking. The first suitor stepped forward in a cloud of perfume and inherited confidence. "I regret," he began. "Of course you do," she said gently. He blinked, thrown off script. "My advisors have detected an unfortunate divergence in our destiny alignments." Behind him, 3 advisors nodded with professional tragedy. "Is it fatal?" she asked. "To my reputation, potentially." They bowed to one another. He retreated with relief so powerful it nearly required medical attention. The hall hummed. Drones recalculated. Above, numbers fell like polite rain. At the perimeter, the human observer tried to become furniture. Humanity had been invited as a cultural curiosity, a species still surprised by automatic doors. He held his translation band very still, as if sudden movement might volunteer him for something. "Relax," whispered the band. "Statistically, you are irrelevant." "Great," he muttered. "Love being comforted by math." Another suitor approached the platform, feathers arranged into heroic optimism. He opened his mouth, closed it, checked a notification, then brightened. "I have just remembered," he declared. "I am already spiritually married to my career." Applause rose. Several delegates made notes to acquire careers immediately. She thanked him. She thanked them all. With each refusal her voice remained level, curated, almost kind. Only her ears betrayed her, dimming, brightening, dimming again, like a civilization trying not to admit it had expected better. A comedian from a methane world attempted intervention. "Perhaps," he boomed, "we should allow the candidate to choose." Protocol gasped so loudly it triggered 3 minor alarms. "Adorable," said the overhead intelligence. "Denied." The comedian bowed to a chair. The chair rotated away, unwilling to be part of history. Time stretched. Dignity developed calluses. The human told himself he should look anywhere else. He examined the architecture of the ceiling, which examined him back. He pretended to read the program. It helpfully displayed the word no in 17 languages and 1 smell. At the center, she inhaled. Not sharply, not dramatically. Just enough to remain present in a moment that had begun to treat her like an administrative error. "Next suitor," called the intelligence. No one moved. Somewhere, a diplomat coughed in 6 syllables. The human's band vibrated. "Reminder," it whispered, "you are here to witness, not participate." "Absolutely," he whispered back, "witnessing, champion of it." And then, despite every sensible instruction in his bloodstream, he looked at her. Her gaze had been traveling the hall the entire evening, a careful orbit, never landing long enough to be accused of asking. Now it paused, adjusted, corrected, found him. He glanced behind himself. There was only a wall and a historical plaque apologizing for the wall. "No," he breathed. Across the platform, something in her expression changed. Not brighter, not yet, but steadier, as if the universe had finally offered resistance instead of absence. The intelligence began to protest. Protocol began to hyperventilate. The human's band tried to faint. She took 1 step toward the edge of the platform. And the galaxy, which loved tradition almost as much as it loved a spectacle, leaned forward to see what she would dare next. The step should not have mattered. Protocol insisted on that immediately, broadcasting footnotes across the air. Movement does not imply intention. Intention must be filed in triplicate. Triplicate is currently experiencing delays. She continued walking. The intelligence cleared its throat in surround sound. Candidate 47 Blue, please return to the emotional starting position. I am in it, she replied. A murmur climbed the seating tiers. Some delegates leaned closer. Others leaned away, the universal body language of people hoping history would choose a different row. At the edge of everything, the human performed a complex diplomatic maneuver known as pretending to study his shoes. Unfortunately, he was wearing standard observer boots, designed by committee, interesting to absolutely no one. New plan, whispered his translation band. If we power down, perhaps she cannot see us. That's not how sight works, he whispered. We are experimental equipment. We are allowed optimism. She descended from the platform without hurry. Each step was an argument conducted in silence. Lights from the compatibility drones trembled, recalculating paths they had never rehearsed. Security, muttered someone. Romance, corrected a historian, already weeping into a recording device. The human felt several million years of expectation politely climb onto his shoulders and sit there with refreshments. He looked left. He looked right. Both directions were filled with witnesses practicing their memoir faces. Maybe she's going to ask directions, he tried. To you, said the band, you got lost in the lobby. I was exploring. You apologized to a sculpture. It seemed judgmental. She was closer now. Close enough that the noise of the hall began to retreat, embarrassed by its own volume. Her ears carried thin rivers of light, patterns changing faster than translation could chase. The intelligence attempted authority again. This deviation has not been approved. Then it will be memorable, she said. Several drones stalled midair, unsure whether to record or faint. The human swallowed. There were instructions for moments like this, surely. Humanity had manuals for assembling furniture. It must have something for unexpected interstellar proposals. His band searched helpfully. I have found, it said, a breathing exercise, 3 prayers, and an advertisement for commemorative rings. Traitor, he whispered. She stopped in front of him. Up close, she was not overwhelming. She was precise, like a question that had finally decided to be spoken aloud. You are the human observer, she said. I observe professionally, he answered, because panic had seized the steering wheel. Very advanced watching, award eligible. Her mouth tilted, almost a smile, almost disbelief. Have you been watching me? Yes, he admitted, then winced. Respectfully, with academic terror. Behind them, the delegates leaned further, physics protesting. I have stood in many halls, she said. I have been measured by algorithms that mistake caution for destiny. I am tired of being the safest answer. That sounds reasonable, he said. I myself am frequently a terrible answer. A sound escaped her then, small, bright, surprised. Laughter trying out the air. The intelligence flooded the chamber with warnings. Cross-cultural entanglement risk escalating. Probability of narrative event, unacceptable. Define unacceptable, she asked. Anything new, it replied. The human looked at her ears, at the light racing through them, at the steadiness underneath. He became aware that invisibility had expired. He was visible now in several major star systems and at least one gift shop. You can still turn back, he said quietly. I know, she answered. She did not. Instead, she drew one more breath, held it like courage, and asked with a voice that refused to tremble, May I speak to you not as a candidate, not as a calculation, but as someone who is very tired of being left standing alone? His band made a heroic attempt to interrupt and instead played hold music. The galaxy leaned closer. He lifted his head. Yes, he said. Yes, he said. The word exited without a permit. For a moment, nothing in the galaxy processed it. The translators checked with one another to confirm that affirmative consent still meant affirmative consent. A delegation from a telepathic cloud demanded a recount. Somewhere an archivist dropped an entire century. The intelligence tried to reboot authority. Clarification required. The human has agreed to conversation, not matrimony, not co-ownership of ceremonial cutlery, not. Yes, the human repeated, because repetition felt like courage wearing training wheels. Her ears brightened, not wildly, carefully, like someone opening curtains in a house that had been closed for weather. Good, she said. Conversation is how impossible things apply for citizenship. His band wheezed. I would like it recorded that we voted no. You're a bracelet, he whispered. You don't vote. I contain multitudes. Behind them, the audience broke into frantic subcommittees. A legal envoy fainted into a bowl of decorative gravity. The comedian from earlier tried to sell souvenir timelines. 2 credits, he shouted, pre-chaos condition, slightly used. She kept her attention on the human as if the rest of existence were simply enthusiastic furniture. I am called Leth, she said. He blinked. He had prepared for many disasters, but introductions had not been one of them. I'm Aaron. Aaron, she repeated, testing the weight of it. Names always sounded different in someone else's future. The intelligence inserted itself between them as a hovering wall of warnings. Cultural incompatibility index at 92%. Aaron nodded. We get that a lot. Leth's mouth curved. What happens to the remaining 8? No one has stayed long enough to find out, he admitted. A pause settled, but it was not empty. It was building. The kind of pause engineers fear and poets rent apartments in. I have been refused, she said, not dramatically, simply truthfully. Politely, elegantly, with charts. I am tired of being everyone's reasonable decision. Aaron considered this. I once got rejected by a training simulator. What for? Lack of heroic posture. Can you improve it? I tried. I sprained optimism. She laughed again, stronger. Delegates flinched as if joy might be contagious. The intelligence lowered its tone, attempting intimacy. Human Aaron, you are a minor species representative with no mandate to alter ceremonial outcomes. Correct, he said. I can barely alter breakfast. And yet, Leth asked, you said yes. He looked at her, at the steadiness she was manufacturing from exhaustion, at the hope she refused to label hope in case it overheard. Yes, he said again, softer, I did. Above them, probability engines ran simulations so fast they began to doubt arithmetic. Historians elbowed one another for better angles. The chair that had rejected the comedian rotated back, interested now. What do? Aaron asked. We speak, Leth answered. We find out whether the universe is as finished with surprises as it claims. The intelligence attempted a last defense. If this continues, precedent will occur. Good, she said. Precedent is untidy. Then clean it later. Aaron's band projected emergency options. Faint, flee, develop sudden allergy to destiny. He dismissed them all with a trembling thumb. Leth, he said, tasting bravery like it might expire, what are you asking for? She held his gaze. Around them, empires held their breath and prepared strongly worded memos. I am asking, she said, whether you will stand where others stepped away. The hall waited for him to become small. Aaron discovered inconveniently that he was tired of that job. I can stand, he said. I'm very experienced at standing in the wrong place. Her ears flared, light racing through them like sunrise negotiating terms. Then stand with me, she said. Somewhere deep in the machinery of tradition, a bolt loosened. And for the first time in longer than anyone had recorded, the future failed to follow instructions. They stood. It turned out standing was dramatically louder than anyone had prepared for. Alerts unfolded like offended relatives. Entire doctrines cleared their throats. A remote Senate demanded to know who had authorized posture. The intelligence expanded into a cathedral of warnings, each more decorative than the last. Joint stance detected, it announced. This action may result in mutual future. Aaron nodded. I was afraid of that. His band attempted diplomacy. Perhaps we can downgrade to polite leaning. Leth did not move. If I lean, she said, they will call it hesitation. That's fair, Aaron admitted. They once called my entire education an extended hesitation. Across the tiers, delegations whispered with escalating creativity. The betting pools collapsed under moral philosophy. Someone began selling commemorative oxygen. The historian from earlier spoke into every device he owned. Note the human, he breathed. Observe how he continues to exist. I can hear you, Aaron called. Excellent. The historian cried, primary source. The intelligence deployed projections of previous ceremonies, a museum of obedience. Suitors bowed. Candidates accepted inevitability. Everyone returned home with relief carefully packaged as wisdom. Tradition offers stability, the intelligence said. Tradition offered me a line, Leth replied. I have stood in it long enough. A diplomat pushed forward, robes bristling with emergency etiquette. This is irregular. Yes, Aaron said, we noticed. There are procedures. I'm sure they're lovely. They prevent chaos. Leth tilted her head. Is that what this is? The diplomat examined the two figures refusing to retreat. He examined the absence of explosions. He checked his instruments. They displayed something alarming, possibility without catastrophe. He stepped back, deeply suspicious. Aaron exhaled. I should warn you, he murmured to Leth. Human history with big moments is mixed. I am not asking for perfect, she said. I am asking for present. Above them, the probability engines began bargaining. Percentages flickered, dipped, rallied, developed personalities. A new variable pulsed where Aaron stood, stubborn as a typo. Human Aaron, the intelligence said, trying kindness like it might be medicinal. You may withdraw with dignity. He considered the offer. It was generous. It was safe. It came with a commemorative forgetting. I think, he said slowly, dignity might be busy elsewhere. Leth's fingers hovered near his. Uncertain, brave in the particular way of someone who had rehearsed loss but not acceptance. If you step away, she said, I will understand. I know, he answered. The knowing made it worse. The hall leaned inward, hungry for retreat. Cameras rehearsed disappointment. Commentators prepared gentle narratives about how courage had been attempted and sensibly canceled. Aaron looked at the space between their hands, that small, ridiculous frontier where history waited for volunteers. His band whispered very quietly now, we have no data. Good, he whispered back. I'm tired of being data. He closed the distance. Gasps traveled faster than light had ever bothered to. The drones froze, scandalized into stillness. Somewhere a prophecy requested early retirement. Leth's hand met his. Contact, no thunder, no collapse of law, just warmth astonishing in its simplicity. The intelligence flickered. System error, it tried. System update, corrected the historian, crying harder. Aaron swallowed laughter and terror together. What happens now? Leth intertwined her fingers with his. As if she had practiced this in dreams, she refused to admit having. Now, she said, they must decide whether choice is allowed to exist after being witnessed. Around them, the galaxy discovered that watching was no longer a passive hobby. It was a responsibility. The universe waited for consequences. They did not arrive. Instead, reality performed a small administrative shrug. The alarms continued for a while out of professional pride, then reduced themselves to embarrassed notifications. A crisis committee attempted to convene and discovered it had accidentally formed a support group. Hand contact sustained, the intelligence reported, searching desperately for thunder it could invoice. Predictive catastrophe remains unforthcoming. Aaron flexed his fingers, just to be certain the moment was not theoretical. Are we sure it's plugged in? His band, traitor to panic, had gone quiet. Finally it said, new metric detected. Which is, you are still here. Leth laughed under her breath. It felt different now. Less like defiance, more like oxygen. That is usually how standing works, she said. Across the tiers, the delegates shifted from horror to curiosity, a migration older than diplomacy. The betting pools reopened under new management. Someone began printing banners that read *I was confused. then brave. The diplomat with the emergency etiquette approached again, slower this time, as if nearing a previously theoretical animal. "You are aware," he said, "that if nothing prevents this, it may continue." "Yes," Leth replied. He consulted his instruments, which had started recommending tea, and others might attempt similar deviations. Aaron brightened. "We could make pamphlets." The diplomat stared at them. "I was afraid you would say that." The historian elbowed his way forward, glowing with vindication. "Please remain exactly as you are for the next 1,000 years." "No," Leth and Aaron said together. The intelligence dimmed, recalculating its personality. "Candidate 47 Blue," it began, then hesitated. "Leth, you were presented for selection." "I know," she answered. "You have instead selected." "Yes." This reverses narrative flow. Aaron tilted his head. Maybe it was facing the wrong direction. A pause rippled outward, vast and delicate. The engines ran again, slower now, not hunting error but mapping terrain they had refused to see. Outcomes unfolded that did not end in humiliation. Children in distant systems would grow up with different examples of how a moment could turn. "Human Aaron," the intelligence said, "state intention." He looked at Leth, at the courage she had spent, at the courage she was still spending. He felt the old instinct to become small, knock politely, and leave when no one answered. "I intend," he said, surprising himself with how steady it sounded, "to find out what happens if I stay." Her ears filled with light, not frantic anymore, not pleading, simply alive. "Then," the intelligence said slowly, rewriting itself as it spoke, "the ceremony acknowledges mutual declaration." Somewhere tradition made room. The comedian from the methane world wiped his eyes. "Do we applaud?" "Yes," said the historian. "Yes," said the diplomat, discovering relief like a misplaced pocket. The hall answered, not perfectly, not in unison, but honestly. Sound rose, broke, tried again. It was messy. It was magnificent. Aaron leaned toward Leth. "What if we are terrible at this?" "We will be," she said. "That's comforting." "We will learn." He nodded, learning he understood. Humanity had built entire catastrophes out of practice. She squeezed his hand. "You stood." "I did," he said, wonder creeping in. "I really did." The band displayed the new category across its tiny arc of light. Words the probability engines had finally approved. "Possible," the intelligence quieted, no longer a judge, merely a witness. "You may proceed," it said. They did together.